Pro wrestlers in the 1980s.
Mercy!
Caught in wrestling history between the underground stars before them and today's kayfabe-free mainstream celebrities, pro wrestling today wouldn't be what it is without them. So, by popular demand, okay, there was this one guy. Here's 5 pro wrestlers from the 1980s that would be over in 2023. Number 1, Kerry Von Erich. Okay, I'll admit I might be picking with my heart as much as my head on this one. As a world-class wrestling fan, it's hard for me to imagine a wrestling world where Kerry Von Erich wasn't over with the fans. All of the Von Erichs were popular and world-class, but Kerry was the straw that stirred the drink. It wasn't coincidence that when Kerry was gone, attendance was down, and when Kerry came back, attendance went back up. While Kerry had much publicized faults and his mic work was not the best, his in-ring skills were excellent, and he bled charisma. All Kerry had to do was walk into a room and he was the most popular person there. Working today, it might be best to put him in a position to be the strong, silent type, possibly having a manager to do the talking, or even a variation of Crow, Sting, or Goldberg, letting his actions speak louder than words in 2023. In today's high-definition world of pyrotechnics and merch sales, it's easy to see Kerry at the top of any list and making the likes of a Roman Reigns seem far more beatable when the title is on the line. Number 2, Dusty Rhodes. Almost a decade after his passing, Dusty Rhodes' influence is still evident in pro wrestling. Not only have his sons Dustin and Cody been among the most prominent stars in recent years, but the likes of FTR and Becky Lynch have credited the American Dream with their early development. One of the biggest pro wrestling stars of the 1970s and 80s, Rhodes was never a hulking physical specimen, but he didn't need to be. Rhodes could talk a crowd into an arena, and he is still considered one of the best promos of all time. Rhodes' everyman appeal and his sincerity when he spoke gave everything an air of realism that is largely missing and needed today. Depending on who is calling the shots, Dusty Rhodes in 2023 could be stuck as a comedy act in wrestling. Yeah, it's happened before. The best thing to do would to simply let Dusty be the Dusty of the 70s and 80s. AEW or one of the smaller promotions like MLW might be the best place for him, as WWE doesn't do blood very often, and blood was kind of one of Dusty's things. Dusty in WWE in 2023? Well, it all depends on who is running the show. And number 3, Gino Hernandez. One of the great unfinished stories in pro wrestling history, the death of Gino Hernandez at just 29 years old brought an abrupt end to what could have been a legendary heel career. Hernandez could have been on par with the likes of Ric Flair and Roddy Piper, but unfortunately we never got the chance to find out. Said to be quiet and even humble in real life, Gino's wrestling persona was a self-aggrandizing villain that was easy to hate. If it was turning against his mentor Jose Lothario or feuding with the Von Erichs, Hernandez was a surefire heat magnet. It's easy to see how Gino's attitude toward the fans of "I'm better than you and I have the championships to prove it" could translate to the same kind of heat today, without dipping into the undesirable go-away heat. Hernandez taking on Cody Rhodes, or maybe even battling another generation of Von Erichs with Ross and Marshall, could be classic confrontations for today's fans. But if there was ever a heel versus heel matchup that would be guaranteed to draw a crowd, it would be Gino against Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Take my money. Number 4, Ric Flair. Ric Flair's prominence in pro wrestling spanned from the 1970s into the early 2000s, and beyond, but let's not talk too much about that. It was the 1980s when Flair really became the nature boy we all know today, spending most of the decade as the face of the NWA and winning 6 of his recognized 16 world championships. A true traveling champion, a card with Ric Flair in the main event was guaranteed money no matter where he appeared. Some of Flair's shtick would probably have to be toned down a little, as it might not go over well today, but his emotional promos are regarded as some of the best ever and can still stir up a crowd in 2023. Always willing to make himself look worse to make the local star look better, it was rare that Flair couldn't get a good match out of just about anybody. A 1980s Flair could not only be a major player in 2023, but he could help put over rising stars like Austin Theory. Imagine a world where Ric Flair started to challenge the record of 16 world championships held by John Cena. The main event sets itself up for WrestleMania. Number 5, Randy Savage. Outside of Hulk Hogan, there was probably no other wrestler that garnered more mainstream popularity than Randy Savage in the 1980s. A quick wit coupled with a unique style drew fans in no matter if Savage was a good guy or a bad guy. Savage had a good physique and was great in the ring, gaining a reputation for being meticulous to detail when it came to what happened in a match. And of course, it probably didn't hurt that he had Miss Elizabeth by his side in the 1980s as well. Everything about Savage in the 1980s would not only work today, but it's hard to imagine it not working no matter what era of pro wrestling you want to talk about. Even Savage's ring gear and clothes he wore to the ring wouldn't be out of place in today's pro wrestling. You can match up Randy with any number of stars in 2023 and it would draw a crowd. It would be great to see Savage challenging Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship or MJF for the AEW World title, but it might be better to see Savage take on Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship and bring the same prestige he brought to that title 30 years ago. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. As always, you're welcome to add your thoughts and comments in the comments section. If you like this 5 Things video and would like to see more like it, you can check out the 5 Things playlist or check out one of the other videos on the channel. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, not necessarily in that order, and I will see you next time.